我发现越来越多的男人，他们已经不喜欢追女生了。
I've noticed a growing and concerning trend. More and more men are giving up on pursuing women. They are becoming increasingly reluctant to engage in relationships because they find the process itself to be physically and emotionally draining. For them, dating has transformed into a high-stakes, high-cost game where only the result, successfully winning the girl's affection, brings any joy. But when they fail, which happens often, the pain is immense. They find themselves asking, why should I endure this exhaustion and internal friction when I can find easier, more reliable joy in playing video games? Is black myth. Wukong not fun enough? The issue isn't that they are lazy, it's that the process of pursuit has become too painful to be worthwhile. If the process itself were as enjoyable as a game, where even if you don't beat the final boss, you still enjoyed the adventure, then they would gladly participate. So, why has the process become so painful? The root of the problem, particularly evident in many Asian cultures, is the ingrained habit of not expressing emotions. Men are often taught from a young age to be strong, stoic, and to hide what they truly feel. But unexpressed emotions don't simply disappear. They get suppressed, they accumulate, and over time, they condense into a heavy ball of pain inside. I recently had an in-depth consultation with a young man who was a perfect example of this. He was like a bottle that had been shaken for too long, and once he found a safe space, he poured out all the feelings, insecurities, and childhood stories that he had never dared to share with the woman he liked. This is a common phenomenon. Men often only feel comfortable expressing their true emotions to other men, if at all. This chronic emotional suppression has severe consequences in two directions. First, for the man himself, it creates immense internal pressure. He is constantly wearing a mask, hiding his disappointment, anxiety, and fatigue to appear strong and composed. This explains why many men suddenly explode over something seemingly minor. To the woman, it seems like a shocking overreaction. But to him, it's the final straw, the moment a dam built from months or years of repressed feelings finally breaks. Second, for the relationship, this lack of emotional sharing makes love feel pale, empty, and transactional. Love, at its very core, is the connection and exchange of feelings. When a man doesn't express himself, the woman has no way of knowing where his feelings are flowing or how he truly sees her. They cannot build a genuine, deep connection. Many women have shared with me that their relationships with such men feel like fulfilling a contract. He gives gifts on holidays, she does the same. But there is always an invisible, unbridgeable gap between them. They lack that essential emotional resonance that makes a partnership feel alive. Therefore, the fundamental reason men are increasingly unwilling to pursue women isn't because they have changed or become apathetic, but because they are trapped in their own emotional cages. Suppressing their feelings not only hurts them profoundly, but also unintentionally sabotages the very foundation of the relationship they are trying to build. It's a tragic, lose-lose situation born from a culture of silence.
宝儿，别问姐去哪，姐就像一阵风，来无影去无踪啊。
Today, I am absolutely furious. Some people are just masters of deception when it comes to blind dates. Before they lock you down, they are angels, sweet, docile, and unfailingly understanding. But the moment you make it official, the mask comes off completely, and they start making endless demands, finding fault in everything, and creating constant drama. This story began earlier this year with a 26-year-old woman, average-looking, who came to me with a single, specific request. She wanted to marry a military officer. I introduced her to a few men, but most turned her down. However, one 31-year-old officer, a proper military academy graduate, took a real liking to her. He later told me he was completely won over by her initial performance. She presented herself as the ideal partner, a great personality, sweet-natured, and remarkably understanding. She would offer to pay for dates, never demanded he pick her up or drop her off, and even brought him a thoughtful gift on their first meeting. For a man who had been exhausted by a demanding and dramatic ex-girlfriend, she seemed like a breath of fresh air. Unsurprisingly, They quickly started dating. For the first couple of months, everything was wonderful. She was attentive, cared for his every need, and made him feel incredibly happy. But then the change began. She started to slowly leak her flaws. First, she revealed she came from a single-parent home and that her mother, who lived with her, wasn't yet retired. He assured her it was no problem. He loved her for who she was. Next, she admitted she hated housework, had a bad temper, and harbored a love for expensive travel and luxury shopping. Again, he accepted all of it. And from that point on, she began to show her true colors. After about 3 or 4 months, she started demanding that he cover all her expenses, from her rent to a monthly living allowance. She insisted he be available whenever she wanted, coax her when she was unhappy, and throw a grand wedding with a bride price that was second to none. She had transformed into a completely different person from the woman he first met. The poor guy put up with her escalating and unreasonable demands for nearly half a year until he couldn't take it anymore and finally broke up with her. Instantly, she transformed back into the gentle, sweet angel from the beginning, using soft words to win him back. But he was resolute, telling her plainly that she wasn't suitable for marriage and blocking all contact. That's when she came running back to me, crying and blaming him for wasting half a year of her youth. After I called the man and verified his side of the story, I gave her a piece of my mind. "Don't you own a mirror?" I asked her, "Have you ever taken a good, long look at yourself? You know your own situation isn't great, so when you find someone better, you should have the common sense to be reasonable. Did you really think that once you trapped him, you could get away with anything?" The fundamental problem with people like her is a complete lack of self-awareness. They use manipulation and deception to get what they want, but aren't smart enough to keep it. Deep down, they know perfectly well they can't easily find someone of his caliber again, which is why they panic and start groveling the moment they get dumped. They fail to understand the basic power dynamic. In this relationship, he was the one with the power to choose, not her. So, this is my lesson for everyone, especially those who fall in love too easily. Take your time. Truly get to know someone before you even think about marriage. It's a lifelong commitment with very little room for error. Don't put too much faith in some fairy tale version of love. Put a little more faith in understanding human nature. It's time to get real.
我有一个可怕的想法，我想把我爸给删除了。
I had a terrible thought recently. I wanted to delete my father from my life. It all started when I began receiving calls from unknown numbers, from relatives I hadn't spoken to in ages, and even, bizarrely, from a matchmaking agency. While I was still confused, my father called and admitted he had signed me up, urging me to be proactive in answering their calls. I exploded. I told him that the search for a partner had never caused me so much anxiety and despair, and that 90% of the pressure I feel comes not for being single, but from them. My unhappiness isn't because of my career. It's because of the daily pressure that leaves me emotionally drained. My father was silent for a long time before telling me he was acting out of immense self-blame and guilt. He regretted turning away potential suitors for me in the past, always thinking I was too young, and now believes my single status is his fault. My dad is a very proud and incredibly frugal man, so this was the first time I had ever seen him swallow his pride to ask others for help, spending thousands on a service he barely understood. All for me. While I understood his feelings, what truly broke me were the words from those phone calls. All of them, from relatives to the matchmaker, spoke with the same script. You can't be so thoughtless. It wasn't easy for your parents to raise you. If you don't get married, how can they sleep at night? Their hair is turning white with worry over you. Don't you have a conscience? Then, my father himself began using lines like, "Dad is old, I can't work anymore," and "I don't have many years left." Those words leave me feeling suffocated and filled with guilt. I don't know how to make him stop. Why must I get married right now? To marry for the sake of marrying? To marry not for my own happiness, but to put my parents at ease and satisfy everyone else? Is that truly a perfect ending?
我找个一米7的，不过分吧？
I don't think my standards are unreasonable. I'm just looking for someone who is at least 1.7 meters tall. That's pretty normal, right? I graduated from a top 985 university, so I think it's fair to expect my partner to have at least the same educational background. I earn around 200,000 to 300,000 renminbi a year, so it's not too much to ask for a man who makes 300,000 to 400,000 renminbi annually. I was born in 1990, and I'm just looking for someone within 3 years of my age, older or younger. I've saved up 300,000 renminbi, so asking for a 280,000 renminbi bride price isn't too much either, is it? But when I asked him, if I met all these requirements, would you consider choosing someone like me? He snapped back, I'd have to be kicked in the head by a donkey to choose you. He went on to say that if a man is 30 years old, with a house, a car, an annual income of 400,000, good looks, and is over 1.7 meters tall, on top of being willing to give a 280,000 bride price, then he could easily find an 18-year-old girl. But I insisted, I'm better than those 18-year-olds. And he mocked me. Better how? You're older, have more wrinkles, and even higher demands. In the end, he just said coldly, I don't want to hear any more.
以下内容为我看到的网文。
This complex saga begins not with a boardroom clash, but with a seemingly straightforward real estate deal. 2 years ago, a U.S. company named Horizon Sunrise spent $25 million on a mansion in a high-end Los Angeles community. The contact person was Shi Yozhen, the official wife of Wahaha's founder, Zhong Qingho, and the mother of his heir, Zhong Fuli, often called the eldest princess. This purchase, intended for Fuli's 3 children to attend school nearby, lifted a corner of the veil on the family's secret life in America and set the stage for the inheritance battle that would follow Mr. Zhong's death. To understand today's conflict, one must go back decades to understand that Mr. Zhong effectively maintained 2 families. The first was his official family with his wife and daughter. The second was with Ms. Du Jingxi, a fiercely talented female executive at Waha who was not just his mistress, but the mother of his illegitimate children, beginning with the birth of their son in 1996. The family's deep ties to America began in the early 90s. By 1992, Mr. Zhong had already obtained a California Social Security number and established a shell company, likely to secure a green card. The year 1996 was pivotal. His entire official family received U.S. Social Security numbers, and a 14-year-old Zhong Fuli was sent to study in the U.S., placed under the legal guardianship of none other than her father's mistress, Ms. Du. That same year, Ms. Du acted as the key to brokering the historic joint venture between Waha and the French conglomerate, Danone. Her value to Mr. Zhong was immense. He trusted her implicitly, even granting her the authority to run the company in his absence. This trust was cemented when she gave birth to his first son in a Los Angeles hospital. Mr. Zhong saw her value not just as a brilliant executive, but as a woman he could bind to himself forever by having his children. Over the next decade, Mr. Zhong, with Ms. Du's help, constructed a sophisticated offshore financial empire. Through a web of shell companies and service agreements with Danone, an estimated $71 million was funneled into the Hong Kong bank accounts of 4 people. Mr. Zhong, his wife, his daughter Fuli, and Ms. Du. He treated Ms. Du as a financial equal to his wife, purchasing her a house right next to his official family's home in San Marino, California, and orchestrating a strange but peaceful coexistence between his 2 families. This delicate balance was shattered in 2007 when Danone attempted a hostile takeover of Waha. Mr. Zhong fought back fiercely, recasting himself as a nationalist entrepreneur protecting a Chinese brand. He ultimately won, but paid a heavy price, a back tax bill of 450 million renminbi and the surrender of his U.S. green card. His daughter, Fuli, also renounced her American citizenship to stand with him. Crucially, Ms. Du and her children retained their U.S. passports and green cards. In the fallout, Mr. Zhong formulated a clear inheritance plan. The Waha Empire would go to fully, while his illegitimate children would be financially secured through vast offshore trusts. He promised to endow these trusts with $700 million for each child, believing he had decades left to fund them from Wahaha's profits. But life was unpredictable, and he passed away far sooner than expected. The current war is rooted in a fatal flaw in his plan. The offshore trusts, holding an estimated $1.8 billion, appear to have been funded with Wahaha's corporate assets, not Mr. Zong's personal assets. This is a critical legal loophole. As the new head of the company, Zong fully recently tested this flaw by successfully withdrawing $1.1 million from one of the trusts. This act effectively pierced the trust, potentially invalidating its purpose as a separate entity and pulling its assets back under corporate control. A colossal legal battle now looms over a simple question. Does the $1.8 billion belong to the company, and therefore to Fully, or is it a personal inheritance to be divided among Ms. Du's children? Ms. Du, despite reportedly amassing her own fortune over the years, is fighting for her children's full share. Her claim was complicated by the mysterious appearance of a third child in 2017, raising the total demand to a staggering $2.1 billion, revealing a seemingly insatiable greed. In the end, the story is a masterclass in psychology. When asked about her father, Zong Fuli's answer was chillingly pragmatic. He was an entrepreneur, a boss, and only then a father. She held no illusions about his love, understanding its transactional nature and using it strategically to secure what she believed was rightfully hers. It must have taken immense inner strength to endure the knowledge of her father's other family since she was a teenager. A woman who overcomes all illusions of love, be it romantic or paternal, becomes virtually unbreakable. In stark contrast, Ms. Du, whom Mr. Zong spent a lifetime compensating with money, is now the one tarnishing his reputation after his death. Is this not the ultimate bitter irony?
有冇男仔可以接受塊面生得非常好但係離過婚嘅女仔呢？
I want to ask a question, especially to the men out there. Could you open your heart to a woman who is wonderful in every way, but has gone through a divorce? Yesterday, I met just such a person. She is a woman from Guangzhou, born in 1996, with long, straight black hair and such exquisite features that I was genuinely excited to meet her. You could immediately sense the grace of someone from a good family. However, she carries the weight of a 3-year marriage in her past. It began as a dreamlike love story from college that ended in a wedding right after graduation, where friends all admired them as the golden couple. But the happiness didn't last. Just 2 years into the marriage, her husband somehow fell into a gambling addiction. For her, gambling is an unforgivable red line, and after a year of trying in vain to help him, she made the difficult decision to divorce. The one blessing in the situation was that they had no children together. Now, 2 years later, she is looking for a dependable man to build a stable life with. Her requirements are very realistic. She's open to a man up to 10 years older, who may also be divorced, but the absolute deal breaker is that he must have no bad habits and truly desire a peaceful, down-to-earth life. So, I sincerely ask you, for a woman like this, would you be willing to give her a chance?
找外国人要彩礼会怎么样？
Have you ever wondered what would happen if a woman demanded a traditional bride price from a Western man? This is a tragicomic tale about a female PhD student studying in the Netherlands, a story that serves as a fascinating case study in cultural collision and personal calculation. Before she went abroad, she was already married in China and had received a hefty bride price of 660,000 renminbi. However, shortly after arriving in Europe, she divorced her husband, citing emotional differences, and quickly found a local Dutch boyfriend. Her objective was crystal clear: to secure a green card through marriage. And then, the most interesting part of the story unfolded. As if demanding a sky-high bride price back home wasn't enough, she decided to undertake a spectacular act of cultural export. She brazenly demanded 88,000 euros as a bride price from her new Dutch boyfriend. But that wasn't all. To ensure her plan would succeed, she upped the ante with the ultimate trump card. She announced she was pregnant and threatened to have an abortion if he didn't pay up. This wasn't a random, emotional threat. She had clearly done her homework. Abortion is legal in the Netherlands within the first 24 weeks, so her ultimatum was a carefully calculated move designed to corner him. But did the Western boyfriend panic and surrender? Not at all. He didn't even flinch. For many in the West, the deeply ingrained concept of carrying on the family line holds little to no weight, and using a child as a bargaining chip proved completely ineffective. Instead of being scared or guilt-tripped, his reaction was brutally practical and decisive. He called the police. As a result, not only did she not get a single cent, but she was also kicked out of his house and left homeless. In an instant, her Dutch dream went up in smoke. Looking back at the whole affair, it's hard not to find it bizarre. But from a certain, cynical perspective, perhaps we should admire her. At least she was fair and consistent in her demands, refusing to lower her standards just because her partner was a foreigner. In her own way, she is a far cry from the stereotype of those who are demanding and helpless at home but become docile and subservient abroad, even considering it an honor to be an unpaid maid for their foreign partner's entire family. So, what do you think about this? Was her action a misguided attempt to apply her cultural norms, or simply a failed act of extortion? And should traditions like the bride price be applied equally to everyone, regardless of their nationality? I'd love to hear your thoughts. In my years of experience, I have witnessed countless stories of marital infidelity from partners who have made mistakes and from those who have been wronged. I've observed that so many people, both men and women, once firmly believed that if betrayal happened to them, divorce would be the only acceptable answer. Yet, when they found themselves in that very crisis, they often changed their minds. Life is not a problem on paper, it's a messy, complicated reality. Only when you are at the precipice do you realize how much more difficult everything is than you ever imagined. Sometimes, the reason to stay is because you can't let go of a deep-seated affection that still lingers. Sometimes, it's for the sake of the family and the children, a life you've built together. And sometimes, it's the stark, humbling realization that you are not as independent as you thought. This isn't just true for women, it's true for men as well. It's stereotypically believed that men can never tolerate being cheated on, but in reality, I've seen many who choose to forgive, or to practice a form of selective amnesia regarding their wife's mistakes. So, must infidelity inevitably lead to divorce? There is no standard answer that fits everyone. The path of rebuilding a marriage after a betrayal is 100, even 1,000 times more arduous than the path of divorce. It requires a level of effort and resilience that not everyone possesses. However, making a life-altering decision based on revenge or a momentary fit of anger is never advisable. Every choice you make in life should be a deliberate step toward a better future for yourself. To make a sound decision to divorce, I believe you need to meet 3 crucial conditions. Think of this as your inner compass. 1. I should leave. Your partner is truly no longer worthy of forgiveness. Their mistake has crossed all boundaries, they show no genuine remorse, and there is no real possibility of repair. 2. I can leave. You possess the courage, the financial capacity, and the emotional independence to walk away and rebuild your life on your own. 3. I am willing to leave. You are fully prepared and able to bear all the consequences of divorce, from the practical lifestyle changes to the potential emotional trauma that will follow. If you look inward and realize you cannot yet meet all 3 of these conditions, then accepting your current reality is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of profound self-responsibility. Finally, I want to say that life is not a martial arts film where we can seek swift, satisfying revenge. There will be times when we must accept a less than graceful posture, swallowing immense bitterness and grievance to move forward. But I encourage you to believe that every trial and tribulation is an opportunity to look inward and find your true, resilient self. Everything in life is its own form of cultivation and practice. I do not advocate for automatic divorce, nor do I advocate for reconciliation at any cost. But I urge that whatever decision you make, it must be one born from deep, thoughtful reflection, not an impulsive act to release your anger. If you are lost and don't know what to do, you can message me. I am here to help.
In all the stories we've shared, from the girl who asked for a bride price in a foreign land, to the man too tired to love again, or the broken marriages that couldn't be easily walked away from, we find pieces of ourselves. Because at some point, all of us have loved, all of us have been hurt. We've all stayed silent when we wanted to scream and wondered, is it their fault or mine? Should I leave or hold on just a little longer? Life doesn't offer perfect answers. Love or divorce, forgiveness or closure, these are not rules. They're choices. And only you are responsible for the life you build from them. What matters most isn't who is wrong. What matters is, can you face your true feelings? Can you protect your self-worth without losing yourself? Can you learn how to love again? This time more honestly, more maturely? On this journey, you'll stumble, you'll get tired, you might feel like you're not enough. But eventually you'll understand every hardship is a part of something greater, the journey back to yourself. At Chinese Emotion, we don't tell stories to judge anyone. We tell them so you'll know you are not alone, you have the right to hurt, to fall apart, and to get back up again. And as long as you're brave enough to live truthfully, you are still worthy of real, lasting love.